Victoria, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited too, because today we are going to be talking about the power of personal brands. But more importantly, before we get started, Victoria, what exactly do you do and how did you get here?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, hi, everybody. I am Victoria Kennedy, and I am the CEO of my own company, Victorious PR. See what I did there? See what I did there? And how I got here? Well, a little bit about me. I'm actually a professional opera singer. That's my background. And I don't know if you know this, maybe you're listening and you're a starving artist. Well, I was right there with you. And as all starving artists know, if you don't know how to promote yourself, you are going to be singing for your supper, quite literally. So in order for me not to do that, I had to get really good at PR. Of course, I didn't realize what PR was. I just knew I need to know the names of journalists and editors so that I could get into these magazines and into these, top music lists so that people would buy my music. And if you're listening and you're like, yeah, what the heck is PR? Well, it's just a fancy word for public relations, but it's also a fancier word for just knowing people, right? Just being a person who knows people to get in different magazines and publications. That's all it means, is all it's about is relationships. And I didn't realize, because music was my focus, that I was actually really good at making connections and getting in these publications. And so when I was living in Europe, it's very funny that we're having this conversation. And when I was forced to come back to America, I thought, well, what skills do I have outside of singing? Because that's a really troubling thing, right? If you spend your entire career singing, you can't even get a job at McDonald's because I didn't know anything but singing. You just go up and say, well, I can sing you an opera aria, but, I have no life skills outside of that. So really doubling down on what I was good at, which was relations, public relations, PR, has really enabled me to do and find what I love, which is helping other people tell their stories. So for someone who has been in the spotlight their entire life, it's really fun now to get to shine the spotlight on other people.
That's absolutely incredible. And I think I mentioned this to you before we hit the record button, but you've got to sing something at some point before the end of this podcast, right? I'm not sure how the acoustics will sound, but that's not my problem, I'm afraid. Adam, if you're listening, our editor, make it sound fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
But this is really cool. So obviously, and again, I agree with you completely. PR, whatever you want to call it, but again, everything in life, who you know, as opposed to what you know, makes a massive difference, right?
Absolutely.
And knowing the right people, like you mentioned, the journalists, the people that can give you access to being on those front pages, to being that center spread or whatever it might be, that makes a huge difference. And I think that's
Mhm.
something that's really important for people listening as well. PR often is misunderstood. And I think
Yes.
that there's a lot of services nowadays, like PR Wire and stuff like that, where people are like that, yeah, well, I put my press release out on that and it got syndicated by some robots that threw it out onto websites and did a really poor job in just literally copying and pasting and still managed to put some errors in. But real PR comes down to actually knowing journalists. Like I've
Yes.
worked with a few PR agencies. I work with another one currently, Waxman in Dublin, or they're now in Dublin, New York, and Singapore. But their main job is that it's to build and harness these relationships all day, every day,
Hmm.
so that when they need to get a founder, a small business owner, whoever it might be, in front of a particular journalist and in front of their audience, they can actually do that. So, what does that
Yes.
look like?
What does that look like? It means
Yeah.
a lot of relationships. And it's very interesting because old PR, traditional PR is, you take the editor out to lunch and you talk about your clients, you show them a portfolio and then they go back to the office and then, oh, that's great. That can't be done. This is 2021 and this is coronavirus time. That's not happening ever. I mean, so the rules have changed. But if you're listening to this, this is a good thing because journalists are all over the world and a lot of my clients are all over the world. There's no way I can, just fly to the UK, especially now, and take a journalist out to lunch. But what I can do is send an email. What I can do is follow them on Twitter, like their posts, and then do a pitch. Right. So there's different ways now. And the people that are coming up ahead, agencies like my own agency, maybe we're smaller than the big dogs, but we're getting better press and better coverage because we have new digital ways to do it, which the old companies are not doing any longer. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, this doesn't concern me. Yes, it does, because this isn't just my industry PR. This is your industry too. We're in a global age of disruption, as some people are liking to call it, the Great Reset. Use this to your advantage. There has never been a better time to start a digital business, guys. So if you're listening to this, please take notes. And I mean that in any aspect where the gates are wide open. There's no longer people holding us back. You can email these people directly. But I want to say that as much opportunity as there needs to be strategy with this opportunity. You can't just send a pitch to 100 editors and hope one of them hit. That's just awful. What you need to do is establish and grow relationships, but it's easier to do now in the digital age because you can find them on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and you can have a real relationship and provide value to them and their audience. And then you can ask for your favor in return.
So I couldn't agree with you more. And I think we call it, from our point of view, from social media point of view, putting the social back into social media. And I think it's something that people have really lost the concept of. So if we met face to face, I would not start by saying, hey, check out this, you should really buy this. I just wouldn't do it. But actually online, people think that's completely normal. So they start relationships off by, hey, do you want to buy this? Or, hey, give me a free link. Or, hey, you should follow me. Or, hey, you should do this for me. And you're like that. You wouldn't do that in real life. So I think the same thing is true again, like you just said, even if it's trying to get a backlink for your website or trying to get featured on a piece of press or whatever it might be, hard hitting people and just spamming basically hundreds of emails out a day is not going to get you anywhere. But actually building a relationship with somebody online. And like you said, it's digital, right? It is 2021. We're not leaving our house. The UK has just gone into lockdown version 3.0 or whatever they're calling it now on this one. I've lost count. It's just online. This is how I spend my day. Today, I think I've done probably about 3 or 4 hours of Zoom calls, a live stream that lasted 35 minutes. It's just constant. It's communicating, but it's all about having conversations. And if people start realizing that and put that at the forefront, like you just said, there's huge opportunities. But guess what? The opportunities never used to present themselves in the old ways to the, excuse the expression, dicks who were just rude and arrogant and not particularly nice and didn't care about anybody else and didn't take the time to get to know anyone else. But actually what is true and has always been true, and I think will always be true, is people who knew the right people always seem to find a way to do well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're listening and you're thinking, how do I find the right people? Well, that's also never been easier than now. I'm going to tell you a little secret, Victoria's secret number one. We're going to be dropping a lot of these value bombs.
Wait. Victoria's Secret. I'm sure there's got to be a better way to talk about these than that.
It's oh, come on, just give it to me.
All right. Okay. Let's go. Victoria's Secret number one.
Number one, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, how do I start, Victoria? Okay. This is where all the journalists and editors hang out. Twitterland. And you may be thinking, oh no, I'm not on Twitter. My grandma's on Twitter. My mom's on Twitter. But guess what? So are the editors. That is their social media of choice. So you need to get on it. Okay. You need to find them where they like hanging out. Just because you like to go to Starbucks, but they like to go to the bougie coffee shop, sorry, you're going to have to go where they are because you want something from them. So get a Twitter, start following them, start retweeting, start hearting, start, saying, I really like this article that you wrote. This was fantastic angle. Your tone was great, whatever it is. And then so once you do that for about a week or two, even a month, you're nurturing that relationship. They start to see you as someone who's really getting value, really understanding their audience and who they like to speak to when they write. So this way, when you pitch, you can, refer back to, I really love this article that you wrote. And I know that your audience really loves digital marketing. So that's why I think I have a fantastic story idea that would really benefit your audience. What did you do? One, you didn't talk about yourself and how great you were. There's no room for that. You have to think they get tons of pitches every single day. You need a way to stand out. And how do you stand out? It's by everything you were just saying, by being kind, by being a human being and saying, you are a fellow human being. I like your work. This is how my work is going to serve you in your audience. That's how you serve. And that's how you make connections.
It's interesting actually, because when we talk about marketing, we'll always talk about where is our audience, right? If you're talking to a client or a customer or business, doesn't matter. You always talk about where is your audience. But the same thing is true for suppliers, for PR, journalists, whatever it might be. You've got to put yourself in that position of where they are. What are they doing? And how do they interact, or what do they interact with? And I think that's something that people struggle with, because like you said, right, there's, I struggle with this. Actually, I just had this on a call a little while ago. Um, People have preconceptions about all the different platforms. I don't
Mhm.
use Twitter because Donald Trump's on it.
Mhm.
That might be a fair reasoning. I don't know. But the idea being, Facebook's for old people.
Mhm.
Instagram isn't for the youngsters anymore. TikTok's for teenagers, whatever it might be. Reality is you've got to look around and you'll start to figure out where the actual people that you want to work with, whether it be for as a supplier or as a client, actually hang out. And once you figure that out, then you can start addressing them in their native land. Like,
Mhm.
ultimately, if you wanted to, actually, I shouldn't use an example of like hunt, but if you were hunting a lion or you wanted to take a photograph of a lion, that sounds better. No hunting. If you want to take a photograph of a lion, the chances are you'd have much better luck going on safari in Africa than you would sort of walking around, Brooklyn or New York. And it's just not going to happen. Somebody's going to point out that obviously there are zoos. I get that, but general
Oh, I,
picture.
I was going to point out there's lions on Wall Street.
There's also wolves. But yeah,
Yes.
that's like the idea, right? So, but I think that's something that people can forget. So it's interesting. But again, I do believe in being more human online. I think it's
Yes.
awful that people have lost that ability. And I had a conversation with somebody about SEO the other day, and he said, you know how you know when you're doing well in terms of SEO? It's simple. You start getting pitched every day for backlinks. And literally, when you get these pictures, you see them, they're like that. You should add this link to my article because it would help your audience. You're like that. I've never even heard of your company. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to delete this. And if they put in a
Mhm.
line like, just email me and let me know if you don't want to receive this stuff like this in the future, I'm like that. Even better. You go straight into junk. Um, don't do
Yeah.
it. Take the
Yeah.
time to actually get to know people. You can tell what an automated message is. You can see what a copy paste job looks like. It's not nice. Don't do it. Try and be more human. Anyways,
Yes.
so PR in a digital age. Nowadays, magazines, newspapers aren't as prevalent as they used to be, but digital has created so many more opportunities. So,
Yes.
how can people, especially small businesses, leverage some of these new opportunities?
Absolutely. And it's never been better than now. And let me explain why. So the olden days was we got to get into, the hard paper, the physical magazine. That's what we really want, to be in the physical magazine. But here's the thing about being in physical magazines. It might be great for your ego. You can put it on your wall, you can put it in a nice frame, and that's great for your ego, but that's going to do nothing for your SEO. It's going to do nothing for your marketing, because you may get into Forbes physical copy. Fantastic. But if I Google you and I Google your name plus Forbes and I don't see it, then I don't believe it. Right? Believing is seeing, especially now in this day and age of misinformation. So many people put fake logos on all of their funnels, like, oh, I've been featured in Forbes, an entrepreneur, but then you Google their name in Forbes and nothing comes up, and that was a lie, right? And so it's really important now. People are smart in this age of disinformation. People are smart and they're distrustful. So it's really, really important now more than ever to use PR to your advantage, because this way you can come across as a credible source. If you are really featured in Forbes, that goes a long way, right? Especially considering, let's say you have a multi-$1,000 program or $1,000 program even. Guess what, guys? People are going to be Googling you. I don't know about you, but if I want to buy a $50 pair of shoes, 50 bucks, I'm Googling what is the best pair of shoes? Where can I buy it the cheapest? Which one has the best arch support? And I'm really like pining over which shoe, even a blender, a $20 blender. I'm like, oh, but if does it have a lifetime? And the thing is, I know you're laughing because you guys do it too. And if you're doing it for a $20 blender, you better believe your clients are doing it for your $1,000+ offer. Okay. So when they Google you, it's so important that powerful backlinks, powerful websites that you've been on, not you tooting your own horn. Okay. You may be listening and thinking, oh, my website comes up first. Oh, so you tooting your own horn comes up first? You and your mom's nice review of you comes up first? Nobody cares about that. What they care about are other people that they respect saying you're awesome. Are you getting third-party validations, not testimonials, because so many of those are fake now these days as well, but an actual website that they respect and admire? Are you getting that kind of press on the first page of Google? Because if you're not, that sale's going to go for your competitor who understands the value of how important personal branding is.
I think there's a lot to be said for being part of a bigger conversation, right? And this is something that, like you just mentioned, it's nice to create your own content. It's nice to, have, so I think our live video that started this morning, I might drop a link to this. Like literally it starts with James, our commercial director, going, "Hi mom, hi dad," like basically taking the mick about who watches it, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that is the kind of semi-truth of it. It's the people that are already within our network. It's the same people that rewatch our content, that like our content. And then it's when you step out of that comfort zone and when you're doing other things and you're part of a bigger conversation. So when we get involved with WeWork Labs and help out the startup program, or, when we're talking to a group of people at a conference like we used to do, that's now become online. So we did a startup grind event last year. Wow, 2021. I keep forgetting. But I think that's part and parcel of the bigger picture of your personal brand, right? It's not the self-inflating ego. It's not being arrogant about it. It's if you've been doing something and if you work in your industry and you understand and you're a specialist within that field, you have a right to say and you have an opinion. People will agree
Yes.
with it. Some people will disagree with it. You can't please everyone unless you go so vanilla that basically it makes no impact whatsoever. But I think being part of that bigger conversation is actually very powerful. And actually, a lot of reporters, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've helped out a fair few over the years, but a lot of reporters actually need help to gain insight into these stories that they're writing. They want experts from a particular field to give them a for, an against, a maybe, a yes, a no, whatever it might be, but an opinion to add kudos to their own articles. And that's something that I see a lot of on Twitter. And in fact, we actually keep an eye out for a couple of different hashtags for, I can't remember if it's journo request in the UK that they use, but we keep an eye on this for our clients as well. Like we'll ping them quite often and say, hey, like this is your field. You should reply to this and see if you can get featured. No harm, no foul, right? But it's better than pitching 100 people cold turkey and trying to get something out of it, as opposed to actually trying to help somebody out.
Absolutely. What you're referring to, which is so powerful, and I think people, if you're listening, this is very important what you touched on, the power of thought leadership pieces, okay? Advice pieces. When everyone thinks of PR, they think there's just going to be this glorified advertorial, basically. They don't think it. They think in their mind, oh, I'm going to get an article written about how great I am and how great my product is and how great my company is. And it's going to be in the front page of Forbes. That's what really people think. And if you're listening to this and you think that that's okay, that's a common misconception. But think about it this way. If you're the owner, like I said, always put yourself in the position of the people you're pitching to. So let's say you are a big Forbes, for example. Do you really want 1,000 articles of all these people saying how great they are? No, your audience doesn't want to read about how great you are. I'm sorry, but that's not newsworthy. As much as your mother and your baby book says different, that's not what the people want. They want advice. Okay, so let's say you are a digital marketer, right? You help small businesses through Facebook ads, for example. Maybe this is what we're talking about. Okay, and you think I want to do an article about how fantastic my Facebook ads are and that why they need to hire me to run their ads. Okay, fantastic, but you don't want to do it that way. You don't want to hit the nail on the head. Nobody wants to hear that. But what you can do is write an article that says the 5 things you need to know about running Facebook ads in 2021, or how you can skyrocket your ROI this 2021, or 3 tips you can do to grow your business this year. Okay, these are just a couple of ideas. And then you can talk about how, number 1, maybe you could do SEO. Number 2, maybe you can do organic marketing. And number 3, you can do Facebook ads. And then you can talk about the success you've had with Facebook ads. And then you use the byline, which is the bio, the short little bio, to say, hey, if you found this interesting, if you got a lot of value out of it, you can click here and we can have a conversation and you can learn more about me helping you. What does this do? 1, it immediately establishes you as that credibility, as that authority in your market, because people want advice. You're actually giving real value. And number 2, that article is going to go way high on SEO because it's actually something people want to read. And number 3, if somebody goes to the hassle of clicking that link and booking a call with you, you don't have to sell them. They are already sold on you. They already see you as that expert in the field. The sale is done. It's closed. See how fantastic and powerful personal branding can be?
I agree completely. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize that it takes a bit of effort. So everyone wants things to be super easy, right? Well, if I tell the guy he can write a great article and it'll be an advert about how amazing I am and my company is, you're like that? No, No, there's thousands of people every day pitching to say like, can you publish my article? I've written something. So there's a lot of people trying to get published. How do you stand out is by creating something that's actually valuable for their audience, as opposed to for what you think it's valuable for. And I think that's something that is really challenging for a lot of people to get their heads around, especially in the early stages. And again, sending emails, and I got one actually earlier today, which I haven't actually responded to, but somebody said, hey, we do this. It's a stock photos app. In fact, I've actually got it here on my screen. This is terrible. You've got this article, 12 free resources for stock photography. We do this, and I think you should add our link into your article. And I was like, hey, thanks for reaching out. We don't accept this. We don't accept any backlink requests. And we only put stuff up that we use and that we've tried and that we can honestly say, this is us. We're an agency. We've been around for 12 years. Our website does fairly well. We're quite happy with that. But we're like that. No, we won't just give backlinks. So I've been offered money. I was offered by somebody, we'll give you a 5-star Google review if you add our link. I was like that. Yeah, no, thanks. Bye.
Oh, wow.
And you actually get these sort of pitches, and this is what happens. And what was really interesting about this guy, he was like that, in that case, here's a link, use the tool for free. If you like it, feature it.
Oh, nice.
And I was like that. Okay, cool. I'll take time to try it out, and then I'll let you know, positive or negative. We'll either accept it or we won't, or we'll add it or we won't, or we'll write about it or we'll talk about it or we won't. But that's the way of the game. But when it comes to content writing, we get pitched the same thing, right? I'd love to post this article on your website. And literally it's an article that's already been published somewhere else, that's been copied and pasted. And I'm like that, what are you doing? One, it's a waste of everybody's time. And two, there's no benefit. There's no value. So actually coming up with a reason why writing a piece of content, like you said, if you make it less obvious, it's actually more powerful.
Yes. And people really love exclusivity, coming back to that. So if you can make it as easy as possible for the editor to say yes, that's a bigger and better yes. If you say, not I have an idea, but I actually have a fully fleshed out article that hasn't been published anywhere, and I want to give you exclusivity of it. One, that is the strongest thing you can possibly say. And two, it adds a bit of urgency to the editor, of, hey, I have until, Friday to make a decision, because this piece is going to be pitched to somewhere else. And you can put that in your pitches. We often do, because you're also giving them an exclusive piece that you wrote. So that's powerful as well. So something that you can leverage as well. But again, the more that you can give the editor and as easy as you can make their life as possible is going to be the best bet for you.
Okay, so let's talk first steps. We've obviously mentioned the idea of getting on the Twitter, making sure that people are finding the kind of journalists that they want to be involved in, the editors, the publications, making sure that they understand who these people are and who their audiences are, getting involved like that. Then we're talking about this idea of pitching, right? So we've said categorically do not copy paste and hammer out emails to every single editor of every single publication, because that's a really bad way of doing things, and you'll end up on somebody's shit list very quickly, I imagine, and they might even share that list between them, so be careful. What can people do to take a firm step forward? How can people start to do this pitching process in the right way and to actually start getting some of the results that they could get out of this?
Absolutely. Well, I actually broke it down. So in addition to doing PR for people and agencies and individual entrepreneurs done for you, I also have a program. So it's done with you, where I show people exactly, because, if you're listening to this, you may listen to a lot of podcasts and know what to do, but there's a difference between knowing and doing. And so if anything, I want you to take away is action steps. So I'm going to give it to you and break it down into steps, because I want you to resize this idea, resize the overwhelm. I'm very big on that. I'm giving a TEDx talk in 2 weeks, and that's sort of like the theme is resizing reinvention. So let's break it down into steps that are actionable. Number one, get a Twitter if you don't have one already. Number two, I want you to make a list of just 10. We're going to start small. Just 10 of the top publications, that your dream publications that would really move your business forward, that you would love to be on. Now, once you got that 10, I want you to make a list of all of the editors and contributors. They're two different things. That's something for a completely different conversation. But just make a list of the people who write for the magazines, and note if they're an editor or contributor, because you do want to speak to them differently. It's different. So you make that list. And now I want you to follow those people on Twitter for at least a week. I want you to make a spreadsheet. You can click every time that you do it, right? So that you're making sure that you're following and commenting on every single one of their posts for a week, right? Now, once that's done, I want you to make A script. Now, a script is something that is unique just to them, right? So, hey, Sally, I love your work at Thrive Global. You know, I especially love your article, 5 ways to have a side hustle, the top 5 side hustles that you should do. That really resonated with me because I actually have a business where I teach people how to do their own side hustles. Speaking of, I think I have an article idea that would really benefit you and your audience. So what did I do? The first thing I did was I talked all about Sally, about how wonderful she is, how I know her. I'm not just blanketly putting this. I know what her audience likes. I took the time to read her articles. I know what she needs and what she wants and what her articles are written for. Then I go into my pitch, what it is, very briefly, just here's the sentence, here are the 3 talking points. Let me know if you're interested. That's it. Right? Boom. Keep it. Don't tell your whole life story because they're just going to scan it. I know you know this. You get tons of pitches, right? They're just going to scan it. So make it as quick as possible, right? They just want to see what's in this for me. Is this going to serve me and my audience or not, right? So that's what you do. That's how you pitch. Keep track of it. I've actually made like Google spreadsheets so that you can like keep track of how many times you sent, what follow-ups you send, you know, because you definitely want to follow up as well because these editors are busy. They get a lot of pitches and yours could get lost. So just make sure that you are keeping track of everything. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can, if you just start small, you can get this done in 15, 30 minutes a day.
It's incredible because literally we have very similar processes to help people with outreach in general for lead generation. People think, you know, I posted on LinkedIn. Why don't I have 15 clients by now? So we try and explain to them that a bit of outreach doesn't harm them. And exactly the same thing. Don't pitch people when you try to connect and request them. It's ridiculous. And when you have nothing in common with them and when you've spent no time investing in that relationship whatsoever, it's huge the difference that it has. And it's actually my commercial director, James at Social Inc., who is become like an expert. It's actually how he and I met through his actual system about coming up to 5 years ago now, I think 2016. And it's exactly that. It's getting involved. It's sending a connection request because you work in the same field, because you're part of the same industry, because you've got some people in common. It's then seeing what they're posting. It's getting involved in their conversation. It's taking part and taking the time to get to know who they are. And then eventually it gets to the point of saying, hey, we should jump on a call and have a chat to see if there's anything in particular that we could do together or whatever else. And I think that has a huge, well, I know it does because that's actually how we run our business as well. But it has a huge different impact compared to those, you've never heard of me. And actually, this is an interesting one. Your script idea, the reason why so many people go wrong is because they copy and paste. And because they copy and paste every time, they forget to update the links. And that to me is like, again, number one, I'm not so upset if you think, okay, roughly the same lines do go into the same sort of messages, but I can tell that you're copying and pasting and you're doing this to a lot of people because you haven't taken the time to even make sure that you're referencing what's in our content. And I think that's something that's an automatic, right? Well, you're out. And in fact, for me, it just goes into junk because as far as I'm concerned, it's an automated process that you've set up. So I think that's really important for people to understand. Take the time, personalize it, make it about them. Do take the time to actually read something they wrote. It makes a huge difference.
Yep.
You think about it from your point of view. You wouldn't want someone randomly pitching you with no kind of context or no kind of relationship or anything else. So actually take the time to read it and understand it. And I think that can make a huge difference.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So people pitching, obviously we need to talk a little bit about actually writing. What about those people who say to you, yes, but I can't write a blog or an article?
Yes. Well, I write all my articles. I don't personally, but we write all of our articles for our clients because, yeah, it's very scary. And as entrepreneurs, which a lot of people listen to this are, you have your own business and you're thinking, what? I have to learn marketing and payroll and HR and this, and now I have to learn how to write my own articles too? No, you don't have to do that. And I'm going to tell you Victoria's secret number 2 about a secret way, not secret, but a really cool way that you can get other people to write your articles for you. So let's talk about that. Let's say you want to get published in Mind Body Green because you are the e-com store and you have a really great like health and wellness product or course for women, right? Let's just say that for an example. Well, let's say, you want to talk about, let's say this product is a supplement that women really need to help with their hormonal balance. But you don't want to go out and say, buy my product. You want to do like an article that's like, the top 3 supplements that women need for their overall health, right? Something like that. So you talk about your audience, you talk about your product, but not in a very overt way. So you go to Mind Body Green and you take a look at other articles that I've written that are similar to what you want to write. You see who the writers are. And then you send a message to that writer and you say, I love the way that you've written. You've written in this style that I really love, that I think your voice is fantastic. I would love to pay you to write this article for me because I want to pitch to Mind Body Green as well. 2 things are going to happen. One, they're going to love you because you're actually going to pay them to write, which many of these writers just write for free. So one, you're providing value to the marketplace. You're providing value to this writer, which they're going to love. And number 2, you have an in to Mind Body Green, the place that you wanted to get into in the first place. So this is such a powerful move that I don't see anybody doing, and I don't know why. You're helping the contributor, you're helping the publication, and you're helping yourself. It's a win-win-win all the way around. So that's my secret, which is very powerful, and I hope you pay attention and practice that.
Again, as well, talking to people, relationships, build it, as opposed to just blanket bombarding people with emails about you. So yeah, I think that's a great tip. And again, what a great way to make sure, like you said, you've got an actual in to the publication that you're trying to get into, as opposed to you having to go in cold, which again, that's a whole set of gatekeepers that you've probably managed to get past just in that first step.
Yep, exactly. So that's how you do it, guys. It sounds easy, but so many people, they don't think about this. They just think, what's in it for me? How can I want to be on Mind Body Green, for example? How do I get on Mind Body Green? I'm going to pitch and spam everybody. You're not thinking about it in what's in the best interest for everybody. What's in the best interest for the writer, for the editor, for your audience, for the publication. If you start changing your thinking and stop thinking what's in it for me and think about what's in it for other people, you're going to do so much better in business and in life. And you're going to be a better person, a better human being. You'll lead your life with more love and gratitude. Like, everything happens when you get out of your own way.
Yeah. And also, being nice.
Yeah.
It sounds so silly, right? But we often forget, as if everyone that's in business has to somehow be, ruthless or just think about themselves because no one else will. I don't agree with that. And I think actually being nice, being genuine, being human, and being social about it will actually provide huge benefits, because you don't know, but where people work today, you don't know where they're going to be in a year's time, 5 years time. And especially with writers, right? Journalists, writers, they move. I've worked with a few over the years, and very happy to have seen them sort of grow up in different areas. And some of them currently work at like the Financial Times, and you think, Jesus, right? Okay. I remember when you were writing stuff for more local, let's say, papers. But again, fantastic. Make collections, make relationships, know people, and be able to actually enjoy those as much as possible. Not for your own personal benefit, but because, again, they're human beings too. If you can help them, it's even better. Fantastic. Build it from there.
And I would also say, speaking of local, I would never underestimate the power of small publications and what they can do for you. A lot of people are thinking, when they think PR, they think Forbes, Entrepreneur, and pretty much that's it. And you don't realize that there are so many publications in the world. Start small, especially if you've not had any press whatsoever. You need to start small and realize that while you're starting small, you're learning how the process works. You're learning how pitching editors works. And the thing is, having a good editor on your side is one of the most powerful things you could possibly have. One, again, it's being nice, but having and saying, this is my first time, I want to get in my local paper. An editor at a local paper has probably been there for years, knows all about the industry. And if you come with an open heart and saying, I really just want to learn, you're my first pitch, I want to get into this, they could probably open doors for you. They can probably say, hey, you should be in this publication, and I have it in. They probably know everybody in your hometown, right? So if you can get in good with one of the editors, doors will open. And that's the thing that I love about PR, because you're a digital marketer, right? Everybody is digital marketing. And so a lot of times we get into this habit of thinking paid ads, paid ads, paid ads. And you see a lot of, very successful digital marketers, you wouldn't even know they're millionaires because they don't post at all. And they're just paid ads, paid ads. But that's not a way to be an industry leader. Sure, it's a way to make a lot of money, but you're never going to have market share if all you're doing is running paid ads. And number 2, and this is the most important part I want you to realize, is that yes, you may make money, but you'll never have other doors open for you because you're not putting yourself into the right rooms. You're not establishing the right relationships. And as we know, it's all about the relationships. And how do you do that? You get on podcasts, you get in magazines, you talk to editors. Somebody is going to read an article and then find you. This happens to me all the time because people find my articles and then they message me. That would not happen if you're just running paid ads. So even though that's a great strategy, that is only one strategy. And realize that you're always going to be stuck and you'll never have the doors open for you if you don't extend to this PR region.
I think it's always a challenge for people though as well, because marketing in general
Mm.
terms, and actually we probably shouldn't talk about marketing anymore. We should start talking about, specific parts of it only, because people go down rabbit holes, right? So if you start getting into SEO, you're like that, oh my God. If you get deep enough, you're like that, Jesus, this is a full-time job. It
Yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
The same with PR, the same with social media, content creation, video editing. And I still laugh and chuckle to myself if I see like a job post where somebody's saying, we want to pay someone £35,000 a year and they need to do marketing. And, it's a bit of experience with social and SEO and content writing and video editing. And you're like that. It's impossible. It's too much work regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that people don't necessarily understand. Whatever it is that you're going to try and get into, it's going to take effort. It's going to take
Mm-hmm.
time. And again, nothing happens overnight, right? None of the people that you're seeing today that are featured in Forbes or that are everywhere or that are being talked about all over the place, none of them started like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
actually, I take that back, except for like Prince Harry and Prince William, but they don't count, right? But that's the truth of it. Like for everyone else and people in business, especially, some people waited 50 years before they got their break and before they got a chance to actually do something. So none of these things are necessarily mean that it's going to happen straight away or it's going to happen quickly, fast, or anything else. But like you mentioned, industry specific, go super niche. Get down
Mm-hmm.
to writing or helping an editor or a journalist out on a really super specific niche website. If you work in SEO, there's thousands of just
Mm-hmm.
solid SEO platforms that you can potentially write for. If you work in food service, again, go super deep, go local based on where your restaurant is. Or if you're nationwide, go super deep in terms of what the actual type of cuisine is, whatever. Find places that you can actually get involved. Because I think that's, again, not just for learning the process, like you mentioned, but you don't know where that leads to.
Yeah.
That's what's exciting, right? You don't know who's going to pick up the phone. I've got a fantastic network. I'm very lucky. I've spent 12 years running my own business. I've met people from all over the world, and it's great because occasionally I'll get random messages from people going, hey, we need to introduce you to this person. You need to help them with X. And I'm like that. Okay, cool. And it's not even a sales pitch by that point, right? It's literally somebody's basically shooed me in and gone, there you go. These are the guys you want to work with. No questions asked, and carry on. But all of those things happen. And some of those connections are purely online. They're people that I just know because of doing things like the podcast, like conversations online, like online events, whatever else that we've been involved in. I think that's a really great way to build those relationships.
I completely agree. That's how it's done. And to go back to your point of niche, guys, that's the most powerful. Victoria's Secret number 3 is niching down. I can't tell you how many small publications, but industry specific, have asked me to be contributors, begged me to be contributor, because what am I doing? I'm writing articles, up value for their publications. And they want more of that because they don't have as much, right? They're not huge publications where they have writers banging on their doors. At the same time, your audience is reading them. For example, one of my favorite examples, I have a client who's in mortgage. We got him on National Mortgage News, which is the number one mortgage publication in the world, well, United States. And that's the thing, is they want us to be a contributor. They love our content. Did you know about that publication? Nobody knows about that publication, but you know who reads it? Loan officers. And who's his clientele? Loan officers. That's the most ROI thing I could have gotten for him. Better than a Forbes, better than an Inc., better than an Entrepreneur. Mortgage loan officers, they're not reading Entrepreneur magazine. That's an ego thing. What you need to think about is remove your ego and where's the actual publications that your audience is actually listening to? What are they actually reading? You'll find that it's very easy, a lot easier to get into those publications, and it'll serve you and your company much better by being in them.
I agree. Victoria, this has been an awesome conversation. Before we wrap up, where can people find you online?
Well, if you want to know more about my company, it's victoriouspr.com. Pretty simple and explanatory. But what I like to say is, I'm a human being. I like to connecting to other human beings. PR is all about relationships. So please find me on Facebook, Victoria J. Kennedy on Facebook. Well, it's Victoria Kennedy, pretty easy to remember. And shoot me a Facebook message. Say you heard me on this podcast and tell me something that you liked or didn't like, or if you have any questions, let me know. I'm a human being and I'm here to help and serve. So I welcome any messages that way.
And on the Twitter, of course.
Of course, in the Twitter.
Excellent. Victoria, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.